Hello, hello, hello. I'm host, producer, creative director, intern, and creator Joe Lightfoot, and welcome to the Perspective Break, where I like to talk and hopefully you like to listen. So, today I want to start off talking about this article that I read from CNBC titled Full Time Minimum Wage Workers Can't Afford Rent Anywhere in the U.S., according to a new report. This report wasn't too shocking to find out that majority of people in the US can't afford where they're living. In the article, it says in 93% of US counties, the same workers can't afford a modest one bedroom. The report defines affordability as the hourly wage a full time worker must earn to spend no more than 30% of their income on rent. This year, workers would need to earn $24.90 per hour for a two bedroom home and $20.40 per hour for a one bedroom rental. The average hourly worker currently earns $18.78 per hour. That's more than $6 short of the wage needed to afford a two bedroom rental. It's only going to get worse from here because we are still in the middle of a pandemic and people aren't taking it seriously. So people are continuously having to take off work, or people still can't find work. And so that's making the needs of things more expensive. And since people can't find work, they don't have money to pay for things. So things aren't getting bought. So it's just going to keep on getting worse. Landlords also have to have some bills to pay too. So they're just going to keep going up on their prices to try to make up for what they're losing. I think it's important for people to realize that this is also a part on the government because the federal minimum wage shouldn't be as low as it still is. For as much as we've progressed as a country, that we love to gloat about to the world how we're so academically advanced and technologically advanced, why are we paying our people such low amounts of money just to live a comfortable life? No one wants to struggle. If you've ever had to struggle, you know it's one of the worst experiences. And to get out of the struggle is even one of the hardest experiences because you come from a place of financial illiteracy and you have to go out into the world and figure that out on your own because in the public education system you don't even get taught about money or about loans or how to set up a 401k, an IRA, or anything like that. These are things that your parents are supposed to teach you. But if you're a person of color and your parents have never been taught about this because their parents never been taught about it because their parents never taught about it, it's gonna be pretty hard for you to learn. But that's also why we're in a changing point of where we are in the world because the internet has made it possible for so many people to learn about different things. But the internet still is an excuse for these things that us as people in the world invented not to teach other people growing up in the same world. I don't understand why. For me, geometry never had a place in my life. It still doesn't have a place in my life. I've never had to measure an angle so far. Check back in my life in 50 years and I'll let you know the next time I had to, measure a square or something. But I would have loved to figure out what tax codes were for when I got older and had to do my taxes. I would have loved how to figure out my own personal finances. I remember I took a class in high school called Living on Your Own, where, we learned how to balance a checkbook, but I've never written a check outside of that class. Something that would have been so much more helpful would have, learning how to budget, because, budgeting is something that you're not taught unless you make your own money. And then you fail sometimes, or you just already have that mindset of, I'm going to save this for that, and I'm going to save this for that. I would have loved how to, live within my own means in school because, that's something hard to come by in real life. You don't know that until you actually have to do it. Life is just us trying and failing at things and seeing if we can get it right. So isn't the point of school to pass down knowledge so we can go over the obstacles that we've done before, but it's like school is negating, like, oh, you guys are going to need this when you're older, but you have time to figure that out once you're older. Why not teach it to us when we're younger? So when we're older, we have more time to focus on more complex issues. Some other things I would have liked to enjoy learning in high school or any other time in public education would have been like, insurance, the importance of insurance. Um, what's compound interest? I also wish that, growing up, we as kids were taught to be more skeptical. Skepticism is a good trait to have. If you learn to question things, a lot of things won't get by you. Our education system here in America was based off of the working system. They needed people to be able to go into the working class when this system of education was created. But now we're not in that same tone or era anymore. People don't want to waste their time learning things that's not going to help them in their lifetime. School should be the place where people get to actually say what they want to do, or say the things where they get to say the things that they want to try and do, and they get to go into it more and try and see if they like it and see if they want to go down that path. There should be no reason why it's common for, you know, people in their 20s in America to have to find themselves and go through all these challenges at this point in their life when we could have been doing it from the ripe ages of 15, 16, 17, instead of being told, you need to know your physics. I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm a communications major. I like to talk. What is that going to do for me in my life? I don't know. Maybe one day. Maybe if the world actually becomes like the 100 and, they need a physicist, I could probably self teach my way with all the horrible textbooks. But back to skepticism. Skepticism is a really good trait and skill because if you don't learn how to question people, you're not going to find people's true intentions, If I if in high school and like in my general education of going to predominantly white schools learned that it was okay to ask more questions about different parts of history and things, I probably would have been able to learn more things, or I would have pressured the system in changing the system to include things about other people because that's something I'm very passionate about. But, from a young age, we're taught no, you go to school and you learn. If you ask a question, you ask a question about what's being taught, not what's not being taught. Or, you don't question your elders or what they tell you because, elders and respect and the whole toxicity of it all. In other news, Zendaya is in the middle of shooting season 2 of Euphoria. In an article with Teen Vogue, she says, I think this season's not going to be easy though. It's not going to be a fun watch, I don't think, sometimes. And for some reason, that kind of makes me excited. I love the places that, new television is going. Um, Euphoria, for one, really touched on a lot of topics that I relate to because I've seen some things that probably not to the extent of how they've been touched on in Euphoria because, Euphoria is that show, but things similar and around the same areas and subjects. So it's finally cool to see storylines that I feel and other people feel actually happen in real life being brought on the screen, but also the art and the cinematography and the acting of it all is just so good and special. Like the performances from everyone are spectacular. Um, Even the music always sets the right mood for like what the scenes are going to be, like what the episode is going to set you up for. And I love like the distinction of characters. Like you really have a group of cast that really shows the distinction of what America can look like, but also what like the suburban high school area scene is and what does go down. Because a lot of people just think that, these predominantly white schools, high schools and stuff, are just like some horrible things go down in these schools. And it's things that people don't talk about sometimes, but there are some things that people do talk about a lot of times, like anorexia and things like that. But, there's a light being shined on the transsexual community and the bisexual community within this show. So I think it's a really important show to watch and watch out for because season one was so good. So I can't even believe what season two was going to touch upon. There's just a lot of shows these days that touch upon some great things, like, for example, WandaVision and like the story it told about grief and how, like, owning up to like your mistakes and your challenges and the bad things that have happened to you can make you a bigger and stronger person. And I commend Marvel for that because, Marvel started out as, just these superhero big action flicks, but, with times are changing and cinema is really an art. So they're taking their new developments and what they believe in and they're turning it into something that people can relate to. And with WandaVision, it came out at a perfect time because of the pandemic and how Wanda was in a bubble. And so it really connected with a lot of people with, not understanding what to do when you're depressed and with your grief at any time. So I felt like that show was really transcendent for television and people. But all the Marvel shows lately, like, well, they've only come out with three. Well, the Marvel Disney Plus shows have been really good and a good continuation of the MCU story. And I'm not even like, I've become a really big MCU fan because I just like the storytelling. Like, it's a good story. Like, it's a long ass story that's never ending. So, like, what is there to complain about? Also today, Ariana Grande and The Weeknd released a Vivo performance of Off the Table, and that is such a good song. And the live performance with the vocals and everything were outstanding. I can't believe what I saw. Like, it was amazing. On this channel, I'm going to be talking a lot about, music and TV and news. So I hope you guys just, are ready for that because I'm a very avid music listener or just like an avid consumer of the arts. And, in the future, I do want to have guests on here so like we can talk about the arts and, other things that they're interested in and getting other people's point of view and things. But, yeah, this was the second episode of the Perspective Break. I hope you guys enjoyed listening and I hope you learned a different perspective from me today. And I'll see you guys next time.